everyone tonight to tonight's Committee of the Whole for the November 19, 2019 City Council meeting. Council has the minutes from the November 5th Committee of the Whole meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, do I have a move for approval?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? So the minutes from November the 5th carry. Parks and Rec Advisory Board, Mayor Pro Tem Whitten.
Yes, sir. We have 2 vacancies. We have 2 incumbents. We'll take these one at a time. For the first vacancy, I'd like to nominate Robert Cochran to serve a second term.
We have a motion for Robert Cochran. Do I have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second for Robert Cochran. Okay. Next. Okay, do we want to get up? Should we not get all the nominees first before we vote? Okay.
For the second one, I'd like to nominate Malcolm Daly for a second term.
I have a motion for Malcolm Daly. Do I have a second? Second. Motion is second for Mr. Daly. Are there any other nominations for the Parks and Rec Advisory Board? Okay, seeing none, we'll take these one at a time. All in favor of Robert Cochran, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? He passes, and we will approve that officially later on in the agenda. And then Mr. Daly, all in favor of Mr. Malcolm Daly, please say aye. 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 Any opposed? Mr. Daly carries, and we'll approve that later on in the agenda. Thank you, Ms. Whitten. Questions on the agenda for Assistant City Manager Crouch?
Mayor, if I may, real quickly, we have 2 changes to the agenda. One's minor, and one we're going to announce something. Item 8D1 has been removed at the request of an applicant. That's on the consent agenda. It's East Glen Investment Properties, and it was just an easement that they needed to make some adjustments to. You'll likely see that at your December 3rd agenda when they resubmit. And then the other thing is, I'd like to announce we had a resignation from the Green Space Advisory Board. So our board announcement is, with the 1 vacancy on Green Space Advisory Board, it's an unexpired term that will begin immediately and end August 7th, 2020. The appointment will be made at the December 17th, 2019 meeting. I'll reiterate this during the agenda, but by formally noticing this tonight, we can begin the advertising process so you can consider a replacement appointment at the December 17th meeting.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Crouch, what's our plans for the Committee of the Whole on December the 3rd? What is our schedule at this current time for that meeting?
At this current time, as we're looking, and we don't have a full idea of yet what all the department heads will be submitting for the agenda. We have a good idea, but not everything's finalized yet. So we're looking to set Committee of the Whole at 6:15. You have Judge McLaughlin's annual report, which is required by state law and needs to be completed before the end of the calendar year. And that's about a 15-minute or so presentation. You've also slated, based on 2 other actions that you took, that you had an interest in hearing as soon as possible on 2 items, one of which was the impact fee questions and just information that Councilperson Parsons requested, and the other, Councilperson Dawson, requested some information about a police precinct on South College. So all 3 of those items were slated for that evening we were offering about 15 minutes apiece.
I'd like for the council to consider removing those 2 items, the discussion about the impact fees and the discussion about the South Auburn precinct, and us rescheduling a work session potentially in the 1st or 2nd week of December. I feel like, and I would like for the council to consider, that we need to have a discussion about student housing during the Committee of the Whole that night and begin to move that ball forward. The task force work is pretty much done at this point in time. And it's time for the council to start wrestling with what our determinations, with the information that we've been provided, the data that we've been provided, now the position of the university. It's time for us to have that discussion, and I'd like for the council to have that discussion that night during the Committee of the Whole, and for the staff to provide potentially some information to us that would include, but not be limited to, how the council could go about using some of the tools in our toolbox that could be dealing with different types of building code strategies or issues, that could be looking at densities, And that legally, what are our options if we do want to slow this down in some form or fashion? But it's, we've got all the information, all the data we need. It's time for us to move forward. So I would like for the council to allow us to move those two items that we were going to discuss. And I have talked to Bob and Tommy, which they were the ones who offered those ideas for us to look at that, to a work session, and then us replace that time with a committee of the whole discussion about student housing. So how does the council feel about that? Thoughts? Good. Okay. Good. Okay. So.
Okay, we'll do that. We'll take care of that, Mayor. And again, we'll set that meeting time based on the data that we have. And then also what your agenda looks like. We try to be mindful of the fact that it's a 7 p.m. start time
Sure.
and try to figure the appropriate time, and we'll work with everybody to set the time. It will be probably 6 or 6:15, not earlier than, unless you guys are telling me otherwise that you would like to meet earlier than that.
And in addition, would you and the staff work with the council to find another time, sometime maybe the first or second week of December, that we could have maybe a 1-hour work session and bring these other two items to discussion?
Absolutely. I will email everyone this week with some options. I know we are hosting the Super 7, and some of that, this kind of second week is finals week and a little bit slower and fewer events going on, but that would be at your pleasure. I'll offer up dates in both weeks and see what works best for everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, council, for approving that. Okay, anything else for Ms. Crouch? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn the committee of the whole?
So moved.
We are adjourned. We'll call to order tonight's Auburn City Council meeting for November the 19th, 2019. Roll call, please, Caitlin.
Dawson,
Here.
Dixon,
Here.
Griswold,
Here.
Hovey,
Here.
Parsons,
Here.
Smith,
Present.
Taylor, Witten,
Here.
Anders.
Here. Would you please rise for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance, and then followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. In the committee of the whole earlier, we reappointed two gentlemen who have been serving, Robert Cochran and Malcolm Daly, to the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. We also discussed our committee of the whole for December the 3rd, and we will use that time to do two things. Number one, we'll hear an end of the year report from our municipal judge, Jim McLaughlin, and the council will have a beginning discussion about student housing and the information that we've received and collected over the last year. Under Mayor's announcements, I wanted to, very excited, we understand this week that Officer Justin Sanders is reported back to work, and we remember he suffered a gunshot wound last February, and we're proud that he has come back to work, and hope the best for him, and thank him for his courage and for his family for standing by him, and just thank Justin. He's a great young man. Glad to see him back. I want to thank all the people that participated in the Town Creek cleanup of the invasive plants, and I know, Kelly, you were a part of that this past weekend, and just thank all the volunteers who went out and participated in that. And our Veterans Day ceremony was outstanding again. I thank all the staff, all of our departments that made that happen, and it was a special morning, a beautiful morning last Tuesday, and I thank this city for having such a priority of veterans and their well-being and recognizing everything that they've done for us. So those would be my announcements. Anybody else from the council?
I just have something quick to say. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board, we received 11 highly qualified applicants, and I know I had some folks in my ward contact me directly about their interest in serving on that. And I just want to say that the fact that you weren't nominated certainly doesn't have any adverse impact on what we recognize as your desire to serve the city. It's just in this particular case, we had two incumbents, and we have a lot going on with the Parks and Recreation Master Plan. And I think that is the reason that I did not nominate other personnel for this, other applicants for this. So thank you for applying, though.
Thank you, Kelly. I appreciate you saying that. We're grateful for anybody that wants to apply and wants to serve our city, and we're certainly grateful for all those people who did that. So thank you for anything. Anybody else from the council have anything they'd like to make an announcement on? Okay, Auburn University Communications.
Good evening. SGA and the International Student Organization will host the annual Fall Feast on November 25th from 12 to 1:30 p.m. in the Student Center. This event allows international students and others who can't be home for the holiday attend a traditional Thanksgiving meal with the Auburn family. The McCrary Institute for Cyber and Critical Infrastructure Security will be continuing their Leaders on the Plains speaker series by hosting David Pekoski, Administrator of the Transportation Security Administration. Administrator Pekoski will be sharing his thoughts on the top priorities and challenges for the agency in the coming years. The event will be held on November 22nd in the auditorium of the hotel at Auburn University and Dixon Conference Center. The public is invited to attend and is encouraged to RSVP before the event. SGA will be hosting the annual holiday lighting ceremony on Sunday, December 1st from 4 to 7 p.m. The ceremony helps kick off the holiday season for Auburn University and the community by celebrating the lighting of the Christmas tree and menorah on Sanford Lawn. The first hour will be family-centered with kids' activities and refreshments. Many student organizations will be performing during the event, as well as the Drake Middle School Choir. The official ceremony starts at 5 p.m. with the lighting taking place around 6 p.m. The event is welcome to all members of the community. The Beat Bama Food Drive ends this Thursday, and we are so thankful for the community's supports of our efforts. The drive had 3 very successful neighborhood drives and raised thousands of dollars at local grocery stores. The Kroger Regional Office in Atlanta even donated over 22,000 pounds of food this week alone.
Wow.
Student volunteers will begin collecting barrels on Wednesday and Thursday of this week to get a final count on how much food was donated. This event has been a great way for the community to join with students in fighting food insecurity in Lee County. That concludes this week's report.
Congratulations. I'm hoping I don't have to wear a crimson tie.
We hope so too.
Thank you. Okay, at this time is an opportunity for citizens' communications on items for our agenda tonight. Remember, this is only items on our agenda. If you'd like to speak to the council, please come forward and give your name and address for the record. And remember that you have 5 minutes. Okay. All right. Seeing no one, we'll move on. City Manager's Communications.
Item 8D1 has been removed from the agenda at the request of the applicant, so I'll remind you when you're voting on the consent agenda as we move forward that item is no longer part of this agenda, and we will have the minutes reflect as such. The other thing that I have is I'd like to announce a vacancy on the Green Space Advisory Board. One unexpired term begins immediately and ends August 7th, 2020. Appointment will be made at the December 17th, 2019 meeting, and we will begin advertising that vacancy immediately. Mayor, our first actual item of business is the consent agenda. Does any council member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and deal with that item individually?
Anyone on the council like to remove anything from the consent agenda? Okay. Seeing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, consent agenda carries.
Mayor, under ordinances this evening, item 9A is authorizing the installation of 2 stop signs and 1 speed limit sign in Tuscany Hills Phase 6. Unanimous consent is necessary.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there anyone on the council have a problem moving forward with a vote on this evening? Seeing none, I would like to say before we vote that myself and Ms. Witten did go through some Robert's Rules class a few weeks ago. She remembers a lot more of that than I do. So we'll stumble through some of these changes, and I'd like to ask for you to bear with us as we do that. But this does change how we officially go through our ordinances, okay? So at this point in time, we will go through a roll call vote to whether we're going to move forward on the vote tonight or not, okay? All right?
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Dixon,
Yes.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am.
Hovey,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Witten,
Yes.
Anders.
Yes. All right. At this time, do we have a motion to approve this?
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance. At this point in time, we'll do a roll call vote as well. Okay.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Dixon,
Yes.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am.
Hovey,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Witten,
Yes.
Anders.
Yes.
Item 9B is a request from Brett Basquin on behalf of Clayton Properties Group to amend the Woodward Oaks Plan Development District to add 8,000 square feet of office space and 12,000 square feet of a public service use, also known as a fire station. Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval of this request at its October 10th, 2019 meeting. Unanimous consent is necessary and a public hearing is required.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Does anybody on the council have a problem moving forward with the vote on this evening? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address the council, please come forward and give your name and address for the record. Okay, seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing. Caitlin. Oh, well, hold on, before we do that, are there any questions from the council? Excuse me. Any questions or comments? I apologize. Okay, Caitlin.
Dixon,
Yes.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Witten,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Anders.
Yes.
Mayor, under resolutions, oh, sorry, you're correct, you got me on procedure this time.
This time, do we have an...
Move to approve.
All right,
Second.
all right, we have a motion and a second to approve this ordinance. Caitlin?
Dixon,
Yes.
Griswold,
Yes, ma'am.
Cody,
Yes, ma'am.
Parsons,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes, ma'am.
Witten,
Yes.
Dawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Anders.
Yes.
All right, I got you now. Under resolutions this evening, item 10A is related to the ordinance you just considered and is a request by Brett Basquin on behalf of Clayton Properties Group for conditional use approval of an office use, also known as the Woodward Oaks office, and a public service use, Fire Station Number 6, in the Development District Housing Zone with a planned development district overlay for property located at the southeast corner and northwest corner respectively of the Woodward Oaks Planned Development District property. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval. A public hearing is required.
Move to approve. Second.
All right, we do have a motion and a second.
Or procedurally, you would actually open the public hearing before you vote.
Oh, we did that, okay. All right. Still learning. We'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address the council on this issue, please come forward and give your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing.
I renew my motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any questions? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
All right, item 10A2 is a request by Brett Basquin on behalf of Holy Trinity Parish for conditional use approval of an expansion of an institutional use, a church, in the Development District Housing Zone for property located at 100 Church Drive. The Planning Commission unanimously recommended approval. A public hearing is required.
This time we'll open the public hearing. If you'd like to address the council, please come forward and give your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing.
Move to approve with staff comments.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any questions? Comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Mayor, those are all the items we have on the agenda this evening.
Okay. At this point in time, it's time for citizens' open forum. If you'd like to address the council about anything on your mind, please come forward and give your name and address for the record. And you do have 3 minutes to do that.
Mayor Anders, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Herbert Walter Denmar Jr., 412 Opelika Road, Apartment 111. I'm sure many of you here were aware of the passing of Chuck Furlow last evening. Sure, it's been all over the 106.7. But I also come to this evening to address a death in my family. My sister Debbie died earlier today of a stroke that she suffered a week earlier at work. She's going to be 54 years old next month. Or she lost her youngest son 4 years earlier via gun violence. And you can imagine, maybe you can, what she had to endure during the 4 years after that. And I guess today, last week, and today, her life just ended just like that. And also, my dad was so traumatized by my nephew and his grandson's death via gun violence that he suffered a stroke less than a month after his death, and he never fully recovered, and he died on Labor Day 2017. I say that tonight to urge you as a council to do everything you can to address the issue of gun violence in our city and everywhere. As a volunteer at Moms Demand Action, I was aware that the permitless carry bill has been pre-filed for next legislative session. I would urge you to lobby Senator Watley and Representative Lovern to defeat that bill. We do not need needless gun violence. Almost took the life of Officer Jenkins, came back today. We're thankful for that. But for other people, it's not so fortunate. Gun violence not only has a direct impact on the people who suffer from it, but an indirect impact on those like his mother, my sister, and his grandfather, my father, and for all of us that are still left. And I hope that you would please, in your dear hearts, consider that we want to make our city even safer than it is. And I'm sure Mr. Dawson, I'm sure you're very concerned about that. We lost a police officer that was funeralized earlier this year, and I know it's still dear to your hearts. But everyone, please do all we can to reduce gun violence. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry for your loss. Who'll be next? Okay. We'll close this time. Anything else from the council? Do I have a move to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
We're adjourned.